Hey everyone, Ryan here. Today we're just going to be talking a little bit about best practices with your positions. So, position governance, how you should structure your positions, or best practices when you're structuring your positions, key considerations that you might want to take, just some core pieces of your core HR configuration to ensure that you are maximizing the capabilities that positions have to offer, and maybe some features that you didn't really know about. With that, we'll jump right into our slides that we have here. And the first thing we're going to talk about is why it's important to have position governance. Now, I've lined up three different sort of perspectives here. The first one is data integrity. If your positions are not governed properly, then there is a lack of trust in the data that you're seeing in the system. I've seen it with clients before where if there isn't trust in the system, then we end up having these sort of bootleg ways of understanding when there's vacant positions, bootleg ways of knowing what we have budgeted and what we don't have budgeted, understanding what's active and what's inactive, and maybe an external system like a spreadsheet that's being used to keep track of things. Keeping the position governance intact ensures that you have proper data integrity, ensures that there is one version of truth for HR, for finance, for projects, whatever you have implemented as part of the Fusion suite. Our second piece is automation. I mentioned recruiting specifically here in these slides, as well as security, but it doesn't just extend to that. When you are moving someone between positions, right? You're entering a transaction as part of core HR. This might flow into your benefits as part of eligibility in someone's assignment category, whether they're full-time regular, part-time regular, full-time temporary, whatever that might be. It could roll into payroll, right? If your position costing is set up incorrectly, then your general ledger might have some issues. All of this is going to automate, right? If you have your positions governed correctly, then you don't have to worry about these other fields as you're going through and entering these assignment changes. You can trust that at the assignment level, it's going to be entered correctly. And then finally is scalability. If you are governing your positions correctly, you are going to be able to expand and use these patterns at a scale in such a way that you can really optimize for quarterly updates as well as organizational growth, depending on what your goals as an organization are. With that, we're going to move a little bit forward talking about our architecture. So if you are a user of Fusion, you understand that there are jobs and that there are positions. And now jobs are going to be something that you might use if you are an organization that's a bit more fluid. So when I say that, as a consulting firm, right, we might be hiring a large number of consultants that specialize in talent management, a large number of consultants that specialize in workforce management, or maybe core HR, maybe recruiting, whatever it might be, right? But all of us would have the similar job title of consultant. In that case, or in our case for self-implementation, we might want to use jobs. We aren't very rigid. We aren't very budget conscious. We aren't going to be following this very specific structure. It makes sense for smaller, more fluid organizations. However, if you are an organization that's more granular, more structured, and you're very conscious of your budgeting and your regulations, positions are going to be what's right for you. If you, when an individual leaves their job, you are hiring for that seat at the table, positions is going to be exactly what you're looking for. If that's the case, please continue watching. We're going to dive just a little bit deeper and talk about your options for coding, right? So when I say coding, I'm not talking about Python, SQL, C++, any of these coding languages, but the actual codes you use for your positions. Now, you can use a structure like embedding the department or the business unit or whatever it might be within the code, and that'll help you really easily identify where this position is. However, there's a risk there or a drawback. If there's any time some kind of reorganization, let's say we have a number, a dash, and then a number. The first number being corresponding with the department, second number corresponds with the job, or whatever it might be. If for any reason we're reorganizing or we're changing those department codes, or we're changing the job codes, then all of a sudden, all of our codes are obsolete, and we might have an issue. Now that could be great, right? If that's something that you're not worried about at all, then I would say absolutely use this so you can quickly and easily understand what position you're looking at. However, you could also use more of a hybrid approach where the position code is going to be an automatically generated number. And then if we're governing correctly, we can rely on the assignment data to understand exactly what the department, location, business unit, whatever else might be. It's going to reduce some technical debt, and it simplifies any integrations that might happen down the road, any mapping that you might have with your third-party systems. With that, we'll lead into a little bit more of another question on the hierarchy structure that you have. Now, Oracle will support two different hierarchies. The first is our person hierarchy, sort of our management hierarchy, and this is going to be people reporting to people. This is the default. Out of the box, this is what Oracle suggests. The second is going to be our position-based hierarchy, where positions report to positions. Now, what does that mean? What's the distinction between them? Let's say I report to Harry and I am being transferred to work in a different department. So I'm an accountant, right? The accounting manager is Harry, and I am moving over to Sally's department. She is the auditing manager, right? I'm going from an accountant to an auditor. In that situation, if I'm transferring departments, is my position going to stay the same, but my manager is changing? If that's the case, then you would like a supervisory, a manager hierarchy. If when I change my role, I go from Harry's department to Sally's department, and my job changes along with the person that I'm reporting to, the position-based hierarchy is what you're looking for. I go to a different seat at the table, I have a new manager now. If I go to a different seat at the table, but I still report to the same person, the manager hierarchy is what you're looking for. Again, you can't go wrong with either of these. They're just different considerations that you might have of how you want to structure your organization. All right. So the secret sauce is using this information along with the position synchronization process. It's specifically called synchronized person assignment from position. And what this does is it's going to synchronize down to the assignment any values that have been left blank on the assignment, or for whatever reason they're out of sync. You have someone enter a transfer and they forgot to change the location. They unchecked the synchronized from position box. There's a lot of guardrails, but for some reason something didn't get entered in. This position synchronization process is what's going to allow that data integrity. Ensure that if you're maintaining your positions properly, it's syncing down to the assignment. Now, let's say for some reason we need an employee's assignment to be contradictory to what their position says. So the position is considered part-time regular. This person's actually full-time regular, but we don't want to update the position. We just want to update the assignment. We absolutely can do that. You can always override at the assignment level, and the lowest, most granular level is what Oracle is going to look at and say, yes, this is what I agree with, or this is what I'm going to take your word on. However, if we are not configuring anything at the assignment level, it's going to go one step higher to the position level and look at that. This really eliminates a lot of needs for updating assignments, making mass updates, or tracking down why things are wrong. You can just look directly at the position, and not only will it fix it for that employee, but any other employee in the future that's going to fill that position, they will also have that information updated. Super handy, super useful. I think it's an incredible thing that all clients should use. If you aren't using it, please look into the synchronization process for your positions and ensure that you are keeping your data clean. Also, we get to talk a little bit about finance. This is going to be where our positions costing is going to overlap with finance. This is a sort of a bridged gap between our cost centers and our department level configurations and our position level configurations. Similarly, our FTE governance, that's going to be a big piece here. If we are budgeting based off of our headcount, if our position FTE and our position headcount is not updated correctly, then we're going to see some problems. We're going to see a little bit of inconsistencies. So a real-time headcount reporting to the general ledger, that's going to ensure data integrity all the way throughout our application. If you'd like to hear more about that, check out Afternoons with Aces. We have a podcast series coming out with a little bit of details about HCM and finance and how they work together. Finally, some best practices, right? Or maybe not finally, second to lastly. We have our best practices for our life cycle using effective dating. If you're using HCM, I would recommend taking a look at effective dating if you don't understand it already. HCM is a software that relies very heavily on time. So when something is entered into the system may not exactly be when it takes effect. That effective date is when things actually happen, when they are going to be considered a relevant change to a position. Um, Add it as a quarterly update thing, right? You have your quarterly update scheduled. Add it as a piece of your unit testing. Check in on your positions. Use OTBI and HDL to your advantage if you need to make some mass updates. But just take a little check in every quarter and make sure that things are looking right. As you come up on problems, obviously correct them, but it'd be a good time to take a little bit of an inventory on what we have with our positions. And then finally, decommissioning. If you are going through positions and you need to get rid of them, deactivate these positions. Mark them as inactive. Maybe have an action reason configured called sunset or disabled, whatever it might be. It just helps keep things clean. That way, when you're going through your requisition process and you're creating a new requisition, you don't have to worry about these inactive, inaccurate positions that are clogging up your list of values. So, what do we take away? What's our roadmap here? Standardize your codes and ensure that you have a process that you can repeat and that makes sense and is understood by everyone. Turn on your position sync. Trust the automation, ensure that your data is clean, and then just trust your data. Reestablish trust within the software system. Align with your finance team early to ensure that the cost centers and the position costing is mapped correctly, and then try to avoid steadying the arc. If things are incorrect and you need to correct the position, absolutely do so. But try to trust the process and trust that if you're maintaining this data in a clean way and you're maintaining this data integrity, it's going to do the process work for you, and you can trust the tool to do it for you. If you are having issues with your position governance, if you're having issues with positions in general, I'd love to chat with you about it. I love helping people work with this software. So leave a comment down below. This is my email. Feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to connect. Thanks.